Okay, guys, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Uh, Thank you so much for Kazi to inviting me, and they gave me an interesting topic to speak on. So today, like I'm not going to be brief on everything, like complete theoretical stuffs. So I have done something in maritime security domain, and I have reached my own extent on how can we use OSINT in AS and vessel behavior and analysis, and how can we detect suspicious maritime patterns. So that is I'm going to share with you. So we'll start with this quote. So whoever conquers the Indian Ocean will dominate the whole of Asia. So A.T. Mahan has said this, but far, far before our own king, Chola king, Rajendra Chola has proven it. So like you kind of know like what is the area of contention. Okay, as you guys are into like defense and international relation, I don't want to go much deeper into this like straits and what is the sections and all. So I'll jump straight into the topic. So first we'll start with sea lanes of communication. What is generally sea lanes of communication? So see, you can see the picture, right? So in the picture we can see like highways. We have highways in the road, right? So similar way we have waterways. So this is how our entire waterways, the heat map of the waterway looks like. So, sea lanes of communication are primary maritime routes, like between ports and straits. So, how does it act? So, we have, uh, as we know, India's 90% India's trade volume is seaborne. So, we have much like importance in maritime security than any other domain. So, this is why Indian Ocean region is much for contested area in the contextual like scenario is because Indian Ocean region is the only ocean which is warm water for 365 days and 24 into 7. So all the ships, it's been in there before 5th century and still being continued by the foreign powers to do trade in this particular route. So we have maritime zones start from Strait of Gibraltar, and you have Strait of Hormuz. So you can know what is going on between Iran, Israel, and other countries, regional and non-regional players. And you have Strait of Bab el-Mandeb, Strait of Malacca, Strait of Sunda, and Strait of Lombok. So these are the choke points. If some disruption is happened here, the entire global economy will disrupt for some time. Okay. So what kind of problems we could get in maritime security in overall? So the first and foremost, like primary problem we have is piracy and armed robbery. And the second one is territorial and border disputes. And the third one is Chinese, it is specifically for Indian Ocean region. So Chinese maritime expansion and presence in the IOR. The fourth is terrorism and smuggling. And the last is a cyber security threat. So I'm going to touch on all the topics. So if you have any doubts, you can stop me anytime. Okay. Uh, you might already familiar with UNCLOS, right? Guys, it's not like a presentation, so someone has to tell me. So it's easy for me. It's a kind of dialogue.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So UNCLOS is like an umbrella organization. UNCLOS is generally United Nations Convention for Law of Seas. It's under the United Nations. So it was adopted in the year 1982 and came to force in 1994. So, like most of around 80% of the countries are signatories, and so the signatories of this convention, and they are already ratified it. So, what is UNCLOS? So, UNCLOS is generally an overarching legal framework for ocean and marine jurisdiction. That is it. So, under UNCLOS, you have International Maritime Organization. So, the organization that drafts treaties and code of conduct in sea. And the last but not least is the SOLAS. SOLAS is the safety of, it's basically a convention for safety of life at sea. So we can see the territorial zones, right? So it is a depiction. So we have three main zones for every country. One is the territorial waters, that is TW, the first 12 nautical miles from your shoreline. The other one is the contiguous zone from the shoreline, it is 24 nautical miles. And the last one, the maritime extent, the jurisdiction extent for your territorial sovereignty is the exclusive economic zone, which is 200 nautical miles. So every country can access their power only within 200 nautical miles, not more than high seas. High seas will be dealt by the navy, and uh, nobody can be assertive on this particular region. It is open for all. Okay. So I mentioned about unclause. So I have to mention about bathymetry. So what is bathymetry? So bathymetry is generally a data. So as I mentioned, Indian Ocean region is the only hot water region where you can do trade throughout the year. So bathymetry is a kind of data which is a combination of all the datas, like pressure of the water, the viscosity of the water, and streams under the water, water current, and uh, and the temperature and all the stuff. So it is a combination of all the data. So basically, we call it as hydrographic data. If a ship or submarine or a navy vessel, if they want to operate freely in the Indian Ocean region, means they need to acquire this bathymetry data. So the ways and means of acquiring bathymetry data is like this. So you can see the remotely operatable vehicles and underwater like UAV, underwater unmanned aerial vehicles are being used to map the seabed along with extracting the hydrographic data from the sea. Okay. So why, like, you can ask me, like, it is basically an OSINT like program. Why you are talking about bathymetry? So it is like a preview of what we are going to do now. So it is in the year December 2019. So I have found an pattern. So whenever there is a window, you guys have heard about this NOTAM, right? NOTAM is basically notice to the airmen, and you have notice to the mariners. These are two NOTAMs will be which will be uh, given by the Indian government. So basically, if some disruption is going to happen in this particular region or in the airspace, or it can be anything, like it can be some a rescheduling of flight or else missile testing or something like that. So if something like that happens, the country has to announce this openly. So NOTAM is available to everyone. So NOTAM, once NOTAM is given, so it is a prior thing. So you can't give NOTAM one day before. So it's a prior thing. At least you have to give NOTAM 5 days before. So what the Chinese ships are doing? So all these are Chinese ships. So in the December 2019, Xi'an won. The research vessel were very much active in exclusive economic zone, specifically near the Port Blair. And in the August 2022, you have Yuan Wang 5 ballistic. So during that time, we were testing our ballistic missile. Like we were testing our ballistic missile. So this Yuan Wang 5 is basically a ballistic missile and satellite tracking ship. It's an intelligence ship. How we have our Dhruv. And you have October during October 2023, the Xi'an 6. In other way, they call it as Experiment 6. So it is a research vessel docked in Colombo for combined research. And in January 2024, you have Xi'an Yang Hong 3, which is a research vessel scheduled to conduct deep water exploration by the time. So whenever you have a NOTAM, which is given to missile testing, so you have our integrated test facility in near Odisha, the coast of Odisha. You have two facilities. So whenever there is a NOTAM is given, you can see Chinese ships are being active high seas. Okay, so these are the ships. So you can see the one, right? It is the Yuan Wang 5, which is basically an satellite tracking and ballistic missile detection ship. So the second one is the Xi'an 1 Experiment 1 ship. This is Xi'an 6, and this one is the Xi'an Yang Hong 1. Okay, so what these ships are generally doing? So this is the basic representation of this ship's pathways. So you have multiple pathways. So these are detected through open source. So we will be doing the same in the demo. So you have state of Hormuz, you have state of Bab el Mandeb, state of Malacca, state of Sunda, and Lombok state. You have all the states, right? So what these ships are doing? So I'll go deep into history. So right after Xi Jinping took over the control of Chinese Communist Party and he became the president. So what he did is the first thing he did is the military modernization. So he brought up the military reform thing. So right after 2014, if you see in the like maritime domain, they have created a maritime mandate. So that means all the ships which are being constructed and which are going to be constructed, it should be both civilian and military use case. So if something happens, like if it is going to if there is any adversarial relationship and the problem is going to be escalated to a war kind of situation, these maritime vessels, the fishing vessels, the cargo vessels, all the kind of ships can be used for military purpose. So that is one thing. So that is why like we are keen to monitor all these Chinese vessels irrespective of their nature and the timeline of creation. So that is one thing. And the other thing is, so what these researchers are doing. So you have Pacific Ocean and you have South China Sea, your own contested zone, your own playground, and you have other high seas, Arctic and Antarctica. You are doing like pretty much, you are active pretty much everywhere. So, but why is your interest particularly here? So you can see this ACA. I'm toggling it, right. So I'm mentioning it. So this is a region. So we used to call it as 9-degree channel. So 9-degree channel, we have to touch upon this plate tectonics. Plate tectonics is generally you have convergent plate and divergent plate. It's pretty much geography thing. So it is the one presently you have divergent plate moving away from each other. So the actually this particular area has a divergent plate, and if you can see, this is a continuation to Andaman Nicobar Island. So Andaman Nicobar Island, you have active volcano, the only active volcano India has. So it has. So the divergent plate, if wherever the divergent plate is there, the hydrography and the bathymetry readings will change eventually. It's not permanent all the time. So what the Chinese vessels are doing here is they are trying to extract bathymetry data and hydrographic data and use it for their research purpose and give it to the military as a military civil military cooperation. So what the Chinese military will do is they will use it for their submarine deployments. So as you know, like you are not familiar with submarine, so I just put this forward. Like whatever submarines in the world, they can't operate more than below 4,000 meters. So you can go like below 4,000 meters, but you can't continuously operate for below 4,000 meters. That means you can operate only at a depth of 4 kilometers. So what the Chinese ships are trying to do here is, so you have water currents and you have pressure differences and all the stuffs. So if you know and if you are aware about all the situations which is going on there, so once it is being processed, and if you can find a way where Indian sonars can't predict where the Chinese submarine is, so you are finding a pathway where even India is not aware of. So that is the kind of path the Chinese was also very much interested in to find. So you can see the points, right? So A, C, A, B, D. So these are all the patterns which they have mapped so far. So the Chinese knows what is under there because they have done seabed mapping and they have extracted the hydrographic data, and they are familiarized more than Indian Navy is. So that is the one concern we have. Okay. So this is the same thing. So like this is Yan 6 research vessel. So what it generally does is we were testing our like Agni 5 the prime version and the MIRV. So that is a testing period where we have listed our NOTAM. So if you can see this pattern, right? So this zigzag pattern is actually for seabed mapping, and you have the B and D. So the B and D patterns are not normal. It is little suspicious because like you were traveling to Sri Lanka. Actually, the Sian 6 is supposed to go on dock in Colombo port, and the Columbus research vessel, along with the Chinese research vessel, are going to do a collaborated expedition. So that is why they are here in the Indian Ocean. But in between, they have gone up till they are gone up in Bay of Bengal till the coast of Odisha. So what we can infer from here is like uh, like we have inferred that India is trying to do missile test, and the Chinese vessel want to know the actual capability of the vessel missile. So whatever missile we test, it may be a cruise missile, it may be hypersonic glided vehicle, or else it may be hypersonic cruise missile. So whatever we do, like we won't tell the maximum capability of it. We'll reduce the capability into Mach 1, Mach 2. So, but nobody knows what's the exact capacity of the missile. So, the Chinese vessels are like extracting the bathymetry. At the same time, they are collecting intelligence from our own backyard. Okay. How we can confirm it? like how you are saying, you can ask me, right? So how you are telling this Chinese vessel are actually doing seabed mapping and other stuff. So this is basically sieving. Sieving is an underwater glider. So you can call it like UUAV. You can call it as AUV, anything you want. So this is being operated from research vessel. So that is one thing. So the research vessels are active right here. At the same time, the research vessel are using remotely operable vehicle. Uh, like you don't need to send any signals from here, right? So what this vehicles will do is it will collect a bathymetry data. At the same time, it will do the seabed mapping. So these gliders were not supposed to be found, but it was found in the fishermen nets. So one in 2016 in Vietnam, 2019 in Indonesia, again 19 in Indonesia, 2020 from Indonesia and Indonesia, both Malacca State, Sunda State, and Lombok State. People have seen it. So this is basically for surveying. So why these people are doing? If you have something called AS, Automatic Identification System, you have to turn this AS on throughout your voyage, so that people can know where you are and what you are doing. So that is basically AS. So these kind of AUVs, these are modern ones. So these kind of unmanned vehicles are being used. You don't need to turn off your AS. At the same time, you are collecting all the required data for your operations. Okay. As I mentioned, what is AS? What is AS? AS is simply like automatic identification system, which was being adapted. So as I mentioned, you have SOLAS, safety of life at sea. Safety of life at sea is a convention for ship safety. So which was adopted in 1974. Actually, it was came to discussion in the year 1912, right after the Titanic incident. So after the Titanic incident, people get to know, we need to know where the ship is, so that we can do like we can give we can provide rescue support. We can do rescue support. That is what people thought, but it took some time to like formulate it and taking it to global level. So the SOLAS was actually signed in 1974. So under the SOLAS, so you have a mandate for AS. So what is the mandate for AS? So again, automatic identification system, which broadcast key information like vessel identity. So you have an unique identity for all the vessels. You have to send your position details, speed and navigational status every once in there, and widely used by shipping companies, port authorities, and maritime safety agencies throughout the world. So it's throughout the world. But the important point is AS is self-reported data. So it is not independently verified because it can be manipulated. So you can see in the state of Hormuz, right, what is going on. In the state of Hormuz, even ships want to cross, if even the country is willing to cross it, but it's being stopped by both the navies, the Iran Navy and the US Navy is creating a chaos there and blockade there. At the same time, you can see multiple topics being emerging. So the GMSS spoofing, the GPS spoofing and all the kind of stuff. The GPS spoofing is so you have a GPS, so you have AAS. AAS basically a GPS for ships. So you are using AAS, and you have ECDAS, that is electronic chart display and information system. So all these are automated systems which helps you and arm you to operate your vehicle. So the vessels are being like operated with these kind of equipments, and people are trying to tamper this equipment through the signals. So why AS matters? So AS actually enables global maritime visibility, supports search and rescue operation, critical for supply chain monitoring, and used in maritime domain awareness. Okay. So this is how AAS. Actually, you have multiple types of AS. So you can see here a passenger ship has AAS and the cargo ships are AAS. So first I will say what kind of ships has AAS and what doesn't have this equipment. So under this SOLAS, the AAS mandate is only for three things. One is all the passenger ships which is like which is about to do a voyage. All the passenger ships should have this AAS equipment in their like transponder in their operation area. And the other one is all the cargo ships which is like more than 300 gross tonnage and wanted to do international voyage. So a vessel like cargo vessel which is yet to do an international voyage, and the actual gross tonnage is more than 300 more than 300, should have this AS equipment. And all the cargo ships which has more than 500 gross tonnage, they should also carry this AS. So this is how you can see the AS. And fishing boats are exemplary. There is no mandate for fishing boats. So if you are using because AS is expensive, so they can't afford it. So and getting an AS system, so you have to get permissions and the equipment. You should have a proper the electricity connectivity and all those stuff. So it is a chaos for them. So they are avoiding to use AAS. So you have cargo ship AAS. So in the AAS, you have multiple types. The one is Class A transponder of AAS, which is for bulk cargos. The second one is Class B for fishing vessels. So fishing vessels, as I mentioned, more than 500 tonnage of any kind of vessel should have this AAS. So like some fishing vessels still have AAS in their systems, and you have something else called aids to navigation. So aids to navigation has in like multiple forms. You might have heard about buoys, right? Sea buoys. You have signal transponder, sea buoys, lighthouse, and etc. And all these are aids to navigation. They do have AIS systems integrated in the air backend. So the other one is base station. So what all comes under the base station is the port, coastal security authorities. Like you have MRCC, you can see here, right? Marine Rescue and Cooperation Center, ground station, all those stuffs has their own AS system. And the last one is, so there is this concept. So all this AAS, right? So the ship has an AAS which is fitted in the mast. Mast is the top area of the ship. So you have the top area, right? So in the top area, the AAS system will be, the transponder will be there. So here I have to put this. Earth is not flat, because if Earth is flat, so the signals, whichever AAS signals the ship passes through. So basically, the ship passes through this signal in very high frequency, which is 161 megahertz to 162 megahertz. These are the two megahertz specifically for dedicated for AAS. So the ships are sending their like signals to the transponder to the receivers in the ground, and the receivers can't able to receive it because Earth is not flat actually. Earth has its own curvature. So the line of sight issue is there, because we are very high frequencies, the specific 161 megahertz and 162 travels only in straight line. So there is high chance after 24 nautical miles, like you can't able to get signals from any ships away from the direction because of the Earth's curvature. So what the global ship, the international voyage ships are using is, they are using something called satellite AS. So satellite AS, satellite has its own orbiters and AS receivers fitted in them. You have a different constellation just for maritime security and maritime navigation. So what this constellation will do is, whenever a ship is there, the transponder will send the signals right to the orbiters and to the satellites above them. So the satellite will process all this AS data and send this to the ground station, and the ground station data will be passed on to the AS service provider, and the service provider will provide the data for open source organization and other organization which do analytics over this data. Uh, am I clear till now? Like, if you have any doubt, you can ask.
Sure, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll move on to the next topic. So you can ask me like, what is AS? So as I mentioned, AS is some signal which passes in very high frequency, like very high frequency. You should have a receiver to get this signal, and you have to demodulate it because it is an encrypted signal. So like signals are basically ones, like zeros and ones, which is analog. You have to process it. So you have to process the signal, and you have to make it as a readable text. So this is actually an AS, like encrypted AS signal. So you have an AA VDM. AA VDM is basically a tag. So it's a message type. That means AA VDM means this is a message which the ships is sending to the ground station. So and you have one that means type one, and you have the encoded thing. So what you have to do is, so it is an encrypted AS message. You have multiple decrypted platform. So you have to use this decryption platform to decrypt it, and you can get to know what ship is actually sending the signal to the ground station, and what is the current position, and what it is actually doing, whether it is hangered there or it is being utilizing its engine there, and you can see the speed of it. So here the like here, as I mentioned, the message type is type 1. So you have this one right here, right? So after a medium, if you see one, that means it's a type 1 message. Type 1 message indicates vessel position report, and the source where it is from. The second one is commercial vessel, and the purpose. So real time vessel tracking. So you have an encoded message. So I'll put this simple. You have class A transponder and class B transponder. So both the transponder frequently send this signal. It's like a burst. So it's zeros and ones. So these signals being sent like throughout the time, 24 into 7, through through all the places. So whichever ground station has the receiver and demodulator can receive the signal and demodulate and can get to know where the ship is and what it is actually doing. Okay. So this is actually the decrypted AES string. So the string you have seen this in this slide, right? So I have decrypted it using my own algorithm. So the algorithm says after decryption, you can get to know what is MMSI. So what is a channel? So it's a class A transponder. So that is basically VHF channel used. Message type is one that you have seen before in the last slide. And you have MMSI. So we'll see about MMSI in the next slide. So MMSI is Maritime Mobile Security Identity. So actually, it is an unique number, like a unique number for ships which undergoing voyage. And you have navigational status. What that message decrypts us is underway using engine. That means the vessel is underway using propulsion. And you have rate of turn value. So with this values, you can actually propagate at what time the ship can reach the destination. Okay. So we saw the MMSI, right? Maritime Mobile Security Identity Number. So you have two numbers. So all the ships and all the maritime platforms have two numbers. So one is provided by the International Maritime Organization. So which is like typically unique. Unique means every vessel, every maritime platform should has an IMO which is unique from one another. But MMSI is not like that. MMSI is basically uh, how can I say? It's an radio identity. So it's completely depend on the ownership. If a ship is under some ownership, the radio identity will be given in a different number. But if someone acquires the ship and they actually change the radio identity, the MMSA number changes again. But it's not the same with IMO number. IMO number is common all the time. So you can see the last one, right? So we saw. Yeah. So you have this number. So this is how an MMSI number looks like. So MMSI number is a 9-digit number. So the first three digits will always depicts the country code, which is maritime identification digit. Like 419 is for India, 412, 413, and 414 are for Chinese vessels. And the next six numbers are unique vessel identifier. So you have radio systems, right? The changeable radio system even has its own unique vessel identifiers. So this is how an MMSI looks like. So you have to be familiar with MMSI. So that I'll show you a demo. So that time you can correlate with things. Okay. So in this demo, we'll be seeing open source data and open source visualizers and open source receivers. At the same time, I have my own like my own receiver. So what we generally did is, so as I mentioned, these signals are being transmitted in 164 megahertz from 161 to 162 megahertz. So what I did is I have kept an antenna in my building, so in my office building. So what this antenna does, the antenna is connected to an RTL SDR, which is software defined radio. So why I'm using software defined radio is, so I'm getting multiple frequencies, but I need only 161 megahertz and 162 megahertz. So I have to demodulate it, right? So I'm using this demodulator to demodulate my own specific thing. So with this demodulation, the analog signals being converted into a AES message. The AES message, the one I saw here, right? With this framework, I'm able to get this analog signals in this form. So right after getting this in this form, like you have this NMEA sentence builder, right? So in this form, what I'm doing is have written an algorithm which actually parse this encrypted message and decrypt it, and with this you can have this vessel record, like what vessel it is, what is its identification number, what is the last known latitude and longitude, what type of vessel it is, and where it is heading to, and expected time of arrival even. Okay, so we are heading to the demo. So till now I have put on so many things. So you can ask me any question so that it is easy for me to explain while I perform this demo. It's like I'm not a professor, so you can ask me anything. Even if it is a dumb question, you can ask me. I can clear it.
Sir, hi sir. I'm
Hi.
Revan. I have a doubt, sir.
Okay.
The MMSI number and the hull number of the ships are different, right, sir?
Yes, hull number. Hull number is how can I say? Hull number is visible. So hull number for private the commercial vehicles like the cargos and transport vehicles, right? So all this for this vessel, the hull number integrates with IMO number. The International Maritime Organization number is indicates the hull number, but for Navy vessel, the hull number is totally different.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Sir, but the submarines don't have the hull numbers, right, sir?
So submarine actually have their own identification number, but that is not for open source thing. That is completely military stuff. They do have.
Understood, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Anyone else? Oh, can I move forward?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'll connect to the demo system. Okay. You can see my screen, right? Okay. So like this is basically a technical thing. So you have to know it. So when it comes to analysis, you can get to know, okay, this is how actually it works. So you have to know how it is actually works so that you can correlate when you do your own part of research through open source stuff. So okay. So this is an open source website which is basically marine traffic. So you can see these ships, right? So this is actually the traffic of ships which is being transiting through Strait of Gibraltar from here, and it passes through Red Sea, and some from Strait of Hormuz and Strait of Bab el Mandeb. It passes through Malacca Strait and Sunda Strait and Lombok Strait. So this is how the actual traffic is. Okay. So as I mentioned, how uh, the transponders works. So you can see this area, right? So you have sections as we seen in UNCLOS. You have territorial waters, you have contiguous zone, and you have exclusive economic zones, right? So the terrestrial antennas, the terrestrial AAS antennas will be placed in the coastal area. So India has 104 radar stations and AAS stations, uh, like in the coast area. So what it generally does is it can only reach up to an region of maximum of 40 nautical miles, not more than that because of the Earth's curvature. The height of the transponder and the Earth's curvature has a correlation thing that is totally different. So you can only get to know the positional report of ships only till this area. So you can see, right? I'm toggling the mouse. So this is the area you can actually get the signals through your antennas. So rest of the things will be was got through satellite providers. So what this ship generally does it. So you have tanker. So it is a tanker. So what it does is, so it has shared positional data through satellite. So the satellite provider has shared it with the ground station, and the ground station has shared it with the MRCC. MRCC is our regional operating center, which is the abbreviation is Marine Rescue and Cooperation Center, basically. Okay, this is how the ship position will be. So you can note on this website, which is actually useful for your analysis. So what you can do is, there are around 60 Chinese research vessels. So basically doing research throughout the world, from Arctic, Antarctic, in North Atlantic Sea, South Atlantic Sea, and the Indian Ocean, like actively in Indian Ocean region. So what you can do is, if you want to, like if you're trying to track this ship, and you want to know what the ship is doing, and if you want to analyze the pattern of the ship, you can use one such website. And you have, for that you have to collect first the IMO number for the ship, so which is completely open source. You can search for research vessels, you can get the name, and with the ownership you can get the IMO number and MMSI number all together. So with these two numbers you can actually search here, and it will show the positional data and last known data in this website. So it is not like continuously updating. It has a lot of latency. So what we have done here is, so to reduce the latency, we have set up our own transponder. So we are getting all the ships which is near near the Chennai port. So I'll show this thing. Okay. Okay, this is basically the code. So you can see here, right? So we have our own antenna. So the antenna receiving the 161 and 162 megahertz frequencies, and it demodulates it. So the demodulated messages, like as I mentioned in the PPT, you can see the a like a encrypted AES message here, right? AES. So what we are doing, we are running a code to decrypt it. So we are decrypting it. So the decrypted messages, okay, will be like this. So you can see the territorial waters, right? This is the extent here. So you have Humble Warrior, so which is a cargo ship. So we have received its signal 23 minutes before, and you have KMTC Jebel Ali, so which is also an cargo ship, and we have got its like positional data 1 minute before. So what we are doing is, we are doing analytics on top of it. So we have built our own platform here. So what it generally does, every day we'll be running the signals, we'll be continuously receiving this frequencies through our antenna. So from the antenna we are doing the analytics, and after the analytics we are storing all this data for historical identification. So as I mentioned, both the class A transponders and class B transponders has to send its signal every 3 minutes. So if some vessel is not sending its sending its signal for more than 5 minutes or 10 minutes, means they're actually doing something anonymous. There is an anomaly in their path. So that is what we are trying to do here. Okay, so you can select the calendar. So this is today's data, and you can see, okay, as I mentioned, even even the receiving station has its own IMO number. So you can see the rate, the MMSI number of the base station. So you have MRCC, the Coast Guard office near Napier Bridge, right? So the office has its own transponder, so we can see our like their transponder too. And I mentioned, right, they have 104 radar stations, right? So the one of the 104 radar station is the lighthouse. On top of the lighthouse, they have a radar station. So the radar station number is 419-4425. So the role of the radar station is to receive all this AIS data and do analytics on top of it, and give it to and push it back to MRCC. So that is it actual work. Okay. So here we'll try to find some anomaly. So okay, it was 16th of this month. So we have received almost like 20 ships that day, and we have found, okay, this is our port, Chennai port. So you can see the ships are being docked there, right? So we can also get the signals from there. I have seen some Chinese vessel too. Second. Okay, I mentioned right. To familiar with the MMSI number, you have to know the country code, the MID before the MMSI number. All these are MMSI numbers, and most of the ships, if it has its name, so we are collecting all the name from open source data and we are pushing it to our website. And some vessels still the name yet to be analyzed, so the MMSI will directly pop out there. So as I mentioned, only 419 is Indian vessel, the rest of the numbers are from other country. So we can check whether we have any 412, 413 or 414. Okay, so here you can see, right, you can see a Chinese vessel here. Okay, it's under the flag of Singapore, so we'll check some other date. Okay. What we'll do is we'll take an active vessel. Uh, so we'll take this chemical oil product tanker. So you can see, right? So after decoding all these signals, you can get to know that time actually 15th of May 2026 by 11:28, the ship speed is 10 knots. So how you can find anomalies is, right, you might have seen videos being spread out in internet, right? So you can see multiple ships are being jumping from one place to another place near the Strait of Hormuz. That is actually that is how GPS spoofing works like. So here the maximum speed a ship can reach is like 15 to 20. Like even destroyers will go in 20 knot speed. So if a cargo or a tanker is operated more than 10 knots of speed, like 15 knot or 20 knot, that means either the ship is doing some anonymous activity, or else someone has actually entered into their system and spoofing the GPS. Okay, we'll see the vessel track. So we have, as I mentioned, right? If the ship is not sending its AS signal for more than 5 minutes, we'll mark it as AS stream anomaly. So what we have found is, okay. So during this, it was moving throughout this point. Like for every once in a while, it's being sending its positional data, and it is heading to our port. But if you see this place, okay, see this place, time gap, you can see the time gap, right? So from this place to this point, so the ship is completely dark. Either the ship could have used its walkie-talkie. You have a walkie-talkie, the STRs. Either they have used the system to communicate with the port authority, or else they be dumping something there, or doing some anonymous activity there, like ship-to-ship communication or loitering activities, something like that. Okay. Uh, Okay, you can see, right. After that, it was completely moving forward, and only few dark activities are there. So after this point, we couldn't able to get the signals of the ship. Uh, so I think I have explained few things. So I know you have doubts, so you can ask me freely. Guys,
Sir,
yes,
the reason you missed the details of the ship after this point is because of the range was not clear, right,
yes,
sir?
yes. Because we couldn't able to reach it. Uh, uh, it's completely related to the Earth's curvature, and we can only reach up to 12 nautical miles, not more than that.
Understood, sir.
Yes.
Hi,
Hi.
am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Hi, sir. My name is Yash. So I was struck on that point that earlier you mentioned that like 60 or something Chinese vessels, research vessels, are roaming all around the ocean, and especially there are some vessels near our coastline, like a
Yes,
lot of vessels. So what are we really doing on that? Because I don't think it's legal for a country to like it's a kind of espionage in a way, maritime espionage, if I term it.
yes,
And are there any international law which really work over all this, that you can do this or not, and
yes.
how and what is the extent a research vessel of some other country can really come close to another country coastline, and what regarding all this?
Okay, okay. Yes, actually, it's a nice question to ask. So you have UNCLOS. So as I mentioned in the PPT, you have United Nations Convention for Law of Seas, which deals with territorial stuffs between nations, and you have tribunal also. So under UNCLOS, you have SOLAS, the safety of life at sea. So with this, you have UNCLOS mentions 12 nautical miles, 24 nautical miles, and 200 nautical miles. So the exclusive economic zone, a country's maximum, like the country's maximum extent to exercise its sovereignty and territorial integrity is only at a point of 200 nautical miles. So
Okay.
if some ship wants to move forward to 200 nautical miles, they have to still send their AS signals, and they don't need to get any permission from any country.
Okay.
But still these ships are being monitored by Coast Guard and Navy. So that is one thing. And the other thing is, if some ship still want to get much closer to our coastline, they have to give something to port authorities and the Indian government, like any country they are heading to, called as PANS. PANS is pre-arrival notice for ships. So
Okay.
the ship has to send its PANs through either through SDR or through mail. The ship's operator should send to the Indian authorities through mail. So it will be passed to port authorities, Coast Guard, and maritime analysis analysis agencies and to all of them. So with that PANs, they can get to know, okay, some ship is heading to this place and they are asking for permission. So that one is legal. And what is illegal means, the legal is you can operate anywhere in the high seas. That means you can be anywhere in Bay of Bengal. Like most of the Bay of Bengal, the entire region. So it will be easier if I show you here. So this is your 200 nautical miles.
Yes, sir.
So so after this 200 nautical mile, you Andaman Nicobar has its own maritime boundary. So the rest of the place are open. So it is high sea. So anyone can operate there and they can do anything they want. But the operations, as I mentioned, the Chinese vessels operation is suspicious because we have found a pattern of these ships, because they are not arriving in a normal time. They are arriving in the window of no time. So you have ITR, the integrated testing range here in Odisha's coast. We have Abdul Kalam Island, right? We are
Yes,
all
sir.
over cruise missile, short range missiles, ballistic missile tests will be conducted from there. So whenever NOTAM is released, the NOTAM, the maximum range will be covered till here. So what the ship will do is the ship will be operating somewhere here. Like you don't know what the ship is actually doing. Like you can't actually know whether the ship is heading to Sri Lanka or going to Strait of Hormuz, but are doing underground mapping or oil exploration thing or anything. But the pattern you can see, right? Whenever a missile is being launched, the ship will be actively passing somewhere here, so that they can extract all the radio frequencies from the missile, and they can do their own analytics. And with the analytics, they can predict our own military capability.
Yes, sir.
So that is the problem for us. And one more thing is, so there is an hidden stuff. Like nobody knows. There is no confirmation for it. So you can see this area, right? So the mouth of Malacca Strait. So you have in South China Sea, you have 9 dash line. Now it is being China is actively claiming it as 11 dash line. So near the 9 dash line, why China actually having a problem with Japan and USA is US and Japan jointly have developed something called sound surveillance system. So sound surveillance system or like sensor, like being left out, left out in the seabed. So what it generally does is it extracts all the acoustic data from the sea. So with this acoustic data, you can find where the Chinese submarine is passing through and where it is actually going, what kind of vessel is passing by the by way. So your sonars has some extent because sonars can't act well, really well at high depth. So what they are doing is they are using like high powered hydrophones to record the data, and with this data they are doing their own like the analytics. So the Chinese people are claiming that the US, after the we have signed this correlated dialogue, the Quad, the India, US, Japan and Australia, actually US and India have jointly developed the same sound system and deployed it right here. So the Chinese are very much interested to find the sound surveillance system so that they can evade the system with their submarines. I think I have answered your question.
Yes,
So if you
sir.
have any doubts, you can ask me.
The one doubt that I have is, do we have like like for example Chinese vessel? Do they have these capabilities now that they can even track whatever they want to track about a country, even beyond the 200 nautical miles? Because that is the only uh, boundary that is defined under the UNICLOS, which is the proper international law on maritime. So, what a country can do to really stop this beyond 200 nautical miles? Like, what does US do in that? US.
Okay. Uh, the problem is the laws like that unclass only define territories, and like if the ship does the same anonymous activity in our own exclusive economic zone, we can actually board the ship, find the ship for its illicit activity, and you can even detain their operators. So, but though it's not our own area, like we know, as India is like major security provider in the region. We have to be aware of what is happening at where. So but currently we don't have the capability. So what we are trying to do is, so like we are clever. So you can see the notams, like we are actually giving false notams. So this is the same US follows, and we are also doing the same thing. So what we are doing is we are giving false NOTAM so that we can get to know what kind of Chinese vessel is really interested with our ballistic missile test. So after this, so after some time, so you know about this dark vessel, right? There is a concept called dark vessel. Even though there is a mandate for your ships to turn on your AS system, not all the ships will do like turn on their AS system throughout 24/7. So what these ships are doing is, you know about this price cap strategy, right? So the Europe has imposed sanctions. The US and Europe has imposed sanctions on Russia. So what the Russian vessels did is, the Russian vessels can't travel the crude oil, which is overpriced because they are under sanction. So what they are doing, they are transferring the oil in the high seas. So you can see the ship to ship transfer. So that is what that is the time when the ship will go dark. The ship will turn off their AIS system completely. The ship will be dark. No one knows where the ship is until it's turned on their AIS, and some transponder receives it and point this out. The ship is right here. So till then, nobody knows what the ships are doing. They are turning to a manual operation point, and they are transferring all its oil to one legit ship, so that people and port authority thinks like the crude oil is from a legit source, but nobody knows it is either from China or Russia until you use satellite imagery and SAR imagery to find out what vessel is interacting to what. So that is one thing. So that is one thing, right? So we are also doing the same thing for defense capabilities. So we are manipulating NOTAM and like notice the airmen and notice the mariners. So we are expecting the Chinese ships, and we'll be waiting for them to turn on their AS so that we can know what is the open space where we can actually test without their actual their active extraction of intelligence about our missiles. So that is how we are doing. And if it is true, as I mentioned, US and India have jointly developed the sound surveillance system right here. So we can, the integrated command actually monitors the ships which crosses this region, and what kind of underwater vehicles are being traveling through this region, and it can have an awareness about the vessel so that we can do analytics on top of it. So that is what we are actually pitching to the government.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Yes. Like anyone else? Guys, your questions are welcome because I'm not a professor, I'm a working professional. So if you are asking some question which actually makes sense, so we'll be thinking about it and we'll rectify our platform. It is actually really helpful for our country too. So it is not like you are keeping your mouth shut just because you don't want to get extrovert and like what if I think you are asking a dumb question. So it is not like that. All the questions are like all the question makes sense and you should ask it when you can.
Sir, I also had one small question.
Yes.
I just wanted to know, like, I just read an article
Okay.
on 16th May. There was this top Netherlands Navy officer, General Robert Rob Dewitt. So he was in, I think, Kochi, and he gave an interview in which he said that we have the capabilities to protect underwater infra, and India should work with us to upgrade the defense capabilities, especially to protect this underwater infra and underwater cables. But I couldn't think of anything other than submarine. Maybe those remote oil refineries that we have somewhere in the ocean that can come under underwater infra. What is really underwater infra and these cables and all, and how do they really protect it?
Okay.
I know how we can protect ships and all, but how we protect this underwater infrastructure?
Okay. So, so I have also like before I have told you about this story, right? So you have this like you have this divergent plate. So active in this particular area, you have the divergent plate. So you can't predict the bathymetry and hydrographic data there, because every day the heat will be changed because of the heat. The pressure will change, the viscosity of the salinity changes, and the water current is totally changes. So you have sonars. So what the sonars will do? So you have P8, you have Poseidon 8, right? So Poseidon 8 is an anti-submarine warfare aircraft. So what aircrafts will do is it will drop like sonobuoys. The sonobuoys will be dropped from Poseidon aircraft. So the sonobuoys will release hydrophones, like the phase of a phased placement of hydrophones throughout the area, and they will triangulate in a manner and extract all the acoustic data from the particular region. Then they will do post analytics. The problem with our system, like even the US system faces the same thing. They are doing post analytics, not live ones. The only live ones is the sound surveillance system, and in the high seas you can't place the sound surveillance system because after 1,000 meters, the refraction is totally different, and your sonar signals will not pass through, and because the pressure is different, the salinity is different. So you need something which should be active, so that you can actually get to know domain awareness, like maritime domain awareness. That is the point of this thing. So like you mentioned the commander of the Netherlands, right? So what he is trying to say here is, so the underwater facility. So the underwater facility is simply you have like active cables. So you have submarine cables. So we are we've been provided with internet only through the submarine cables. And you can see right after the Russia-Ukraine war and in the Mediterranean Sea, and we have instances near the Arctic too, the Chinese vessels and the Russian vessels are actively disrupting the communication by anchoring in a wrong location. So it's just cables. Like these are optical fiber cables with high insulations. So with the cables, we are getting internet. So what this like things are doing, like these ships are turning off their AIS system and using their anchors and unmanned systems, and they are cutting the signals by cutting the optical fiber cables. That is one thing. So, and the other one is like the area, like the countries which has high sea and deep ocean, like deep ocean areas, and there the water current is different. So other countries are keen to find out the bathymetric data and hydrographic data. With the bathymetric and hydrographic data, you can actually evade your own sonar, like the country's sonar and surveillance system, and you can launch any missile from any point of time. So there is no you don't have time to intercept the missiles. So that is, I think, that is what he mentioned as underwater infrastructures.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Okay, guys, that's it from my end. Like if you wish to ask some questions, you can ask me, or else we'll wind up the session. Teju, you are here. Marshall.
மார்ஷல் இல்லை தமிழ் தான்.
ஓகே, தமிழ் அப்போ வைண்ட் அப் பண்ணிக்கலாமா?
ஓகே. Thank you so much for the session, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Like no
We can
mention.
end the session.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.